And so Muhammad and Lonnie said, "Who are you honoring?" This is a great Pump story. I said, "We're honoring Denzel Washington and Hank Aaron." I walked outside the restaurant and I said to David, "We haven't even spoke to those guys yet, and we just said we had them. Sometimes you got to pump fake thorough and make it happen. We pump faked, yeah, and it
That's right.
happened. So we've been known to pump fake once in a while, thorough."
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Rise and Grind. I'm Thurl Bailey, your host. Look, this is a weekly conversation about how people like you find the thing that wakes them up before dawn, how they push through the days that test them, and how they turn drive into purpose. Got a very, very special guest today, one that even though he's shorter than I am, I look up to him in a lot of ways. Dana Pump is a well-known entrepreneur and basketball scout, recognized for his work with his identical twin brother David in grassroots basketball and philanthropy. Dana and David founded Double Pump in 1987 to provide opportunities for high school student athletes to gain exposure to college recruiters and scouts. And check this number out. More than 20,000 athletes have participated in their camps and tournaments, and many going on to earn college scholarships, and also a bunch going on to play at the next level in the NBA. He and his family's love for basketball and people has created some philanthropic endeavors that we'll get into during our time together. But right now, I want to welcome to Rise and Grind, Dana Pump. Dana, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. The real Twin Towers, not Akeem and Ralph, the Pump brothers.
Hey, you have an identical twin brother. How do I know you're not him?
The
Oh, he
ring
doesn't have the ring. That's how we tell you apart.
right there.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Dana, you've got man, you've got a great story to tell, and that's what this podcast is all about. It's about the journey. So I want to jump right into it because I think that every person has a call, something that calls them into what their passion ends up being. Talk to me about the moment you if you can remember that you felt called to do what you do.
You know, I if you're really passionate about something and you have a love like what we do for my mom and dad, that's all passion. That's 25 years of a strong love to keep their legacy alive. So that's easy. You know, nothing's hard raising money, but I mean, that's just a love and a passion. And we got that rolling at the highest level, which you saw in August. What we did in the basketball space, you know, we were ahead of the game. You know, whether we started our scouting service, 30 some years ago where nobody was doing that, tournaments, our AAU teams, the pump and run team. We had a pump and run Utah. We would never be the Maloof, so we had teams in almost every city. And at one time, we had so much leverage, we created a search firm where the former president of the NCAA worked for me, Cedric Dempsey, and we hired coaches, Bruce Pearl at
Yeah.
Tennessee, Ole Miss, etc. So that was all just real passion and love for the game of basketball, and it's been so good to me
Yeah,
and my
but then
family.
I want to go deeper than that because I mean, you had to get that passion. I mean, were you a hooper? I mean, were you like so entrenched in the love of
I was a
basketball?
little white Jewish boy that went to a high-end private school, Bel Air
Take me
Prep,
back.
with Jason
Take us
Bateman.
back.
So, so my brother and I used to go to the park every day. We'd play, we'd be at the gym all day. We had a love for basketball. Larry Brown's brother, Keith Glass, coached me when I was 7 years old, and and I just took a love for the game of basketball. I love all sports, but basketball is something about it. So we weren't good enough. We went to a little private school. Um, we played. They called us the Twin Towers. So uh, that was our first love. Then we went to junior college, and then we started. We just keep creating different revenues through the game of basketball that we loved, and it all started with a seed. We seeded our identity when we were little kids in basketball, and then we just always had good people around us, smart people, and people that were passionate, and it grew into the double pump, and we're removed from that world now with basketball, and for the better. That was just a great run, and I don't have that passion for that anymore. And but it was a great. I mean, we had probably 50 NBA players. I love going to the All Star Weekend. All my guys are there. Whether it's Klay Thompson, Paul George, Paul Pierce, all the Holiday brothers. We have incredible stories of people. I love when kids come up to me and say, "Dana, I played on your AAU team. You really helped me."
So we're going to get a lot more into.
I didn't even tell you the real one. When we would play the colleges, Utah, BYU, EA Sports, we sold our naming rights, and we would have 80 games in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Duke, NC State, Carolina,
Why you had to
and
mention Duke in that? No.
we definitely. Then we would have our coaches retreat, and I invite athletic directors there and explain to young coaches it's all about relationships.
Well,
Getting a job is about a relationship. So
and I want
that's
to
the most important. Go ahead.
I want to get into that relationship, and we're going to get into your philanthropic side too a little bit later. But of course, basketball seemed to be the root and the purpose, but it's carried you into other things. But I want to ask you this: nobody that I know has ever been successful without bumps in the road. So, what if you can maybe fill us in on some of those bumps and maybe how you got over them, how you continue to push through? Maybe you had some naysayers behind you
You
too.
know, the Pumps are like the Yankees. You love us or hate us. And I think when people would say that, they really don't know us because we're very genuine. I was never in the business of selling my players because that's the bad business. But we didn't make a lot of money in our tournaments and camps, but it created a brand for us. And we were always hustling. It was a struggle.
It was a
And
grind,
then
wasn't it?
it was a real grind, and we got lucky at a young age. LA Gear gave us like 600,000 for grassroots basketball, and then from there, Sonny Vaccaro, who was my mentor,
I know
opened up the
Sonny.
door for me. So when people call me, I always want to open up doors, just like I was blessed. My first big speaker on my day camp, Don Chaney.
Wow.
David and I thought, wow, we made it. Here he comes. I call Coca-Cola, and Obie Reed said, "Yeah, we'll pay for it." And it just all those seeds are all nurtured now, and the fruits of our labor.
Can you remember your hardest setback you may have faced during that time?
I think money, financially,
Mm.
we were never making money. We would get sponsors, but we just kept moving ahead. Um, when,
What was it? What was it that kept you showing up and when quitting would have been easier?
because the love, our reputation, our integrity. I remember going into those best of the summer tournaments. Our referee bill was like 35, 40,000, and we just that's what made Dana was David, and what makes David is Dana.
Mm.
Together we're stronger, and just the run we've had has been incredible. I mean, I remember Pat Kennedy would say, "Dana, I don't think there's anyone in basketball that every coach in the country knows of or knows like you and your brother." I thought that was a great compliment, and all the new athletic directors now are our boys. Brian Santiago,
Yeah.
played on my exhibition team. You
Who's the
know,
athletic director now at BYU?
yeah, I've known him since he was a young kid, and so proud of him. Rob Higgins at South Florida now. The new AD at LSU has been rolling with the Pumps. I used to run these AD conferences with my coaches retreat, and those were the little fish, and now they're big fishes.
Did you have a particular daily routine, you and your brother? You had what kind of habits did you have to kind of keep you through those long stretches? Did
We
you
were
have a
we were
plan?
we were very unorthodox. You know, at early years we worked out of our house. You know, and then we had an office in the house, and then we got the habits. We were always grinding. You
Mm,
know, I hate thorough when people say I'm out of pocket. What do you mean you're out of pocket? I've never been out of pocket. If I don't answer my phone, I don't want to talk to you. But I'm 24/7, and the way I am with the foundation is 24/7 touching people for the relationships for the foundation. I just think we grinded it nonstop.
Did you guys have a particular, some people when they're grinding, they have this particular mantra. For some people, it's a spiritual thing. Did you have this mantra, maybe family wise or business wise, that you continue to follow?
Yeah, George Raveling taught me if it's to be, it's up to me. That was my
Mm,
first early mentor too, was George Raveling. And what he meant is if it's to be, it's up to me. It's like it's up to the Pump Boys to get it done. And we had so many great mentors. We have great stories. I went to Michael Jordan's fantasy camp. George let me and my brother go. It was 20 grand for 3 days. And naturally, we got the Pump hookup rate. I played for Chuck Daly, and David played for Doc Rivers. We're trying out. John Thompson, Dean Smith are evaluating me. It was like the Maccabees, Daryl. 100 Jewish people. Mark Cuban was there. And I wasn't, when you're in your 40s, you don't move like you used to. But I mean, we've met everyone. I mean, we've had Magic Johnson on a yacht south of France, all through basketball. You know, Denzel Washington, kid playing on my AU team through basketball. We've raised and given over 15 million to Northridge through basketball. So the
mm,
game has been incredible to us. We're two boys with one ball and a big dream.
wow, I love that. I love that. Now, obviously, we did mention the journey. Were there any people along the way? Don't specifically have to name them, but I'd like to know if there's anybody that you had to distance yourself from, because a lot of times there are people that come in your life that bring that negativity, that bring you know that skepticism,
Yeah,
and that's not easy sometimes because sometimes they're close to you.
no, we were just we were on a full speed attack, David and Dana,
Hmm.
and I was raised by a great family. I knew right from wrong. I never drank, never smoked. You know, I just I was raised by great mom and dad that taught me values. So now, as a parent late in life, I'm doing the same thing, teaching my kids values. I am who I am is because of Carol and Harold Pump.
That's a really good transition. When we come back, we're going to talk about Harold and Carole Pump and the Harold and Carole Pump Foundation. We're going to be right back here. Stick with us on Rise and Grind. I'm Thurl Bailey. Hey guys, time out. You give your best to your work, your family, and your responsibilities. But to keep showing up strong, you've got to stay dialed in. At Game Day Men's Health, the nation's leading men's clinic, they help you get back in the game with a custom game plan built around your labs, your goals, and your performance. Testosterone, peptides, real optimization. Come in today for a free testosterone test and consult. Tell them Big T sent you, and you get 50% off your first year membership. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Victory starts within. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rise and Grind. I'm Thurl Bailey, your host, and Our conversation today is with Dana Pump, basketball entrepreneur and philanthropist. Um, and I know, Dana, that family is important to you. I can hear him in the background, which I like that sound. Every father loves the sound of his family. I want to talk to you about, first of all, your parents before we get into more the philanthropic and the purpose part of what you're doing now. Talk to me about let's go back in the time machine again and talk to me about your parents, Harold and Carol.
My dad was from Oshkosh. My mom was from Buffalo. Jewish family, not really religious, but real values. I couldn't play till I did my homework. My father was at every one of our games with his members only jacket. I wouldn't change anything the way I was raised because I am who I am because of my mother and father. They taught us values, right from wrong. I get my heart for helping others. My playbook and David's playbook is simple: help others, don't keep score. I met a guy, Thurl, you might have met one of the special men in my life. His name's Big Bill. He was Doug Moses' assistant. And Big Bill is just one of the most incredible human beings who really taught me a lot of, and he's getting up there in age, and I love this man. I started my foundation. Someone sent an anonymous 25,000. There was no Google. I had no idea what anonymous meant. I might be from the valley, but I needed to find out what anonymous meant. The reason why I say that, Thurl, that man invested 25 grand in these pump boys. I believe in you before anybody. That's
Wow.
just met him through
Wow.
basketball. Big Bill Fickey from Denver, Colorado.
What was a typical day as a teenager like with Harold and
School,
Carol?
school. My mom had a meal every day. We came home with my dad. You know, my parents adopted two kids, didn't work out great, so we had a lot of that in the problem in the family. Drugs, police. Everyone thinks I live a easy life, and they see all the stuff. But I mean, yeah, we had some adversity in my family. But man, my mom and dad, Daryl, they would see what we've done for them. Three wings, name Harold and Carole Pump Oncology, Pump Family Infusion Center, and I mean the Carole Pump Women's Center. This is going to go on for the rest of the life. So Dane and Cassie, my twins, can see what the legacy. So at the end of whenever I'm done, I know I've done a great job in my community, and I've really seeded some great plants.
What was the genesis of the foundation? I know your parents are the namesake, but
Dad died of
mm,
cancer. He is in hospice dying, kind of like Brian's song. I walk in with David. I get pictures all around his bed of us when we're a little older. I said, Dad, I'm gonna start a foundation. And like my wife, who's very religious, we prayed, and Earthling sent me 25 grand. I didn't even know Earthling was around. And that was 26 years ago, and I just think we're so blessed. I mean, you were in that room last year,
I
Thurl.
was.
You think of all those people that are there, Magic, Shaquille. Those are real relationships. It's just we're blessed. That's all I can say.
Well, I was at that event and I was blown away. And it's not really about the number of people. And of course, you had an A list of folks who supported you, but the love, the genuine love that those people in the room have for you and what you're doing and your purpose. And it's just fantastic to see how a passion has brought you to what I feel like maybe is your real calling in the giving back part and honoring your parents. Um, how do you celebrate? How do you celebrate the fact that you stayed? Do you ever take time to you and your family to just acknowledge that?
Yeah, I love when people say I'm at the Carole Pump Women's Center, and you know, I've been at Northwich Hospital. It gives me a lot of encouragement. But we have incredible stories, Thorough. Like I call Lonnie Ali,
Hmm.
and Layla says, "Call my stepmom." She said she'll meet with you. So Dave and I fly to Phoenix. We go to Houston's. Lonnie Ali, Muhammad, and the twins. And Lonnie looks at us and says, "Boy, you boys are really cute." Now, most girls don't say that. So I tapped Dave and said, "Let me handle it from here." And so Muhammad and Lonnie said, "Who are you honoring?" This is a great pump story. I said, "We're honoring Denzel Washington and Hank Aaron." I walked outside the restaurant and I said to David, "We haven't even spoke to those guys yet, and we just said we had them. Sometimes you got to pump fake
That's
thorough
right.
and make it happen." We pump faked, and it happened. So we've been known to pump fake once in a while, thorough.
That's awesome, man. And you, I don't know any successful person who hasn't taken those kind of risks. And I like what you call them. Dana Pump and his pump fake.
I love it, and
Oh
this is 26 years. We're going to honor the Dodgers. They
wow!
have a day off in August, August 20th.
Is that an
So,
invitation?
oh, you're 100%
My
renewal.
man.
Just but you bless people. I had a lot of Utah guys there. A lot of people. When you don't know the impact, even like when Witt came, like Wittenberg, like my favorite documentary. I think I told you this is Jimmy V. I loved it. I was a young kid. Sonny Vaccaro would take me on the Nike trip. I was a young kid, and I met Jimmy V late in life, and he had a huge personality. Witt used to coach at Long Beach State, so I've known Witt. I've known Witt 35 years, and and that whole thing with you guys, you were on a special run. I had dinner with Coach Herrick last night, and we were talking about like Pepperdine should have won that
Yeah,
game,
they should have.
and the hotel in Corvallis you guys stayed in.
With the mirror and the quarter you put beside
Oh
the bed.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But life is great. I love what we're doing on the philanthropic side. That's just a pure passion, and we're on a whole different level. And to keep mom and dad's legacy alive at 26 years is something very special. But we've had some good people working with us. My good friend Brian Hamill, Leslie Tarloff. We have a dream team. I do the lifting, but I have people behind the scenes that are putting it together.
That's awesome. Well, we have a lot of listeners out there who you've mentioned some of your mentors, people that you admire. Um, Anyone else out there, or any particular, I don't know if you're a reader or not, any particular books that you would advise or, uh,
No, I give credit to my wife, who's
mm,
really, she's really into her faith, and really, you know, we got when we were courting her, she's all into faith. It just changed my life, and we tried for 10 years to have children, and the Lord blessed us, surrogate with a boy and a girl. So I mean, that's incredible. First day I have kids, Daryl, I go to the deli. The lady says, "Hey, Mr. Pump, I haven't seen you in a while." I say, "I just had kids." She said, "Your first grandkids?" I was like, "Oh no!" From that day on, Daryl.
oh, that is awesome, man. Well, as we wind down here, Dana, you know, I started this podcast because I wanted to have conversations with people with purpose. Because there's people out there who are going to be watching this, who are ordinary people that want to do extraordinary things, and I want them to learn from the journey. So if you could go back and maybe talk to your younger self during the toughest time, what would you say to that younger Dana?
Keep moving ahead. Stay with your purpose. I wish I had Leah back in my early life.
Mm.
I ran around. I'm good. I have a great wife with real purpose. I think young kids have to figure life out. I wasn't bad at all. I never got in trouble. The twins never. But just, you want to find your partner and your faith. And I think I did that when I met Leah. She explained to me everything about God and, and being good to the Lord, and really changed my whole outlook on life and helping others.
And I know you've transitioned. I know basketball, I would think you would say, is kind of the root of your passion, and it's really spawned in a lot of different things. But I want, I really want to talk about the state of basketball today. It's changed. What I try not to do as a broadcaster, and I broadcast for the Jazz, and I see other teams come in, I see how the game has evolved. I try not to compare. I try not to say, well, my era was better. The game has changed, and I've tried to evolve with it. But you started in those early days of AAU. You've seen the game change. You've seen what's happened with NIL in college, and you've seen how the pro game has really started to depend on the 3-point shot. I feel like maybe it's coming back to the unique big now. We played Alperen Şengün and guys like Nikola Jokic out of Denver. Talk to me about what your thoughts are on this game and the evolution of it, because you were there at a very important time.
AAU's out of control. NIL, I've lost my real passion. I have friends that are coaching. These kids, in Southern Utah are making nothing against kids making money, but you can't create cultures. You can't discipline kids. So it's very difficult. Even paying kids doesn't mean you're going to win.
Mm.
NBA game is totally different. There's no fives like when you played. You had Kareem, you had Lambert, you had Sigma, Artis Gilmore. There's no more fives, in the NBA. Lost my love for the NBA game. I just think it's. I just don't. I root for my friends that are coaches, but I just lost my passion. High school. I remember you were involved with the Utah prospects, and it's crazy. The AAU, all the shoe companies are paying to create their own circuits. New Balance. I don't know how you change it, because the cat's out of the bag for sure with all the money now, and it's just, I don't know. I think you got to get some real people involved that are smart and figure this out. Shoe companies are a big part of
Mm-hmm.
where everything's going, because these kids are touching the paper early, and recruiting kids. My coaches are all telling me there's no recruiting anymore. There's no calling the parents. How much?
Pay to play.
How much? Multiple years? When do I get the paper?
Yeah.
If we sign today? So that's a tough deal. I have a lot of friends in college football. You're dealing with masses. Look at the money they're paying coaches in college football to go away.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Interesting time. And you're right. I was kind of in that AAU game for a while. I got a sour taste in my mouth with coaches poaching players and trying to incentivize them to jump teams. It wasn't who I was all about. So I understand completely.
Thorough. What BYU football has done is incredible. I hope he stays, because he's one of them. He's their culture. He's LDS. He's part of the church. That's incredible. He brought BYU football. Now Penn State's trying to poach him. More money, more money.
Yeah, exactly right. And I also remember the college days when the great players stayed. Right. I know NIL wasn't a thing, but we created rivalries when we played North Carolina. They had James Worthy and Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins and Brad Daugherty, and we've stayed at least three to or sometimes mostly like myself all 4 years to get that development. And of course, NIL, you don't really see that anymore. But I think the kids who do stay a little longer, you can see the maturity if they happen to get to the next level. We have a kid here, Walter Clayton Jr., that came here with the Jazz, and you could
I
tell.
knew his. I knew Walter's dad. Uh, is it Clayton or Claxton?
Clayton.
No, I knew Claxton played at Georgia. Yeah, but finish your thought.
No, I was just saying how you don't really see that anymore because of things like NIL. These kids are really one and dones, and and they try to carry that over to the NBA. So I understand kind of how you feel about. I think the game's evolved to a way that it's still fun. You look at guys like Steph Curry. I mean, KD was in here last night playing the Jazz, and there's still some great ones out there that are obviously going to be Hall of Famers. But I appreciate you, man. I'm gonna ask you to maybe leave us with some words of wisdom to our listeners.
Think everything in life is about relationships. People help people, and I think if you do what you say you're going to do, and your word is great, and I really think the Pump Brothers have a great reputation, and our playbook is to help others, and that's what that would be my seed I would drop.
I love that playbook, Dana, and
Thank you.
I appreciate you. And again, I'll say it again. I may be twice your height, but I look up to you, my brother.
That's awesome.
I appreciate.
Where will you send me a little thing I could put on my IG today?
Absolutely,
That would be awesome. Thank you guys so
absolutely.
much.
Dana Pump, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thanks for joining us here on Rise and Grind, and we will talk to you next week.